I've tried very hard to take emotion out of my decision to back this movement. I look at it from a much simpler perspective, much as I would any business decision that I would make back home. I've identified that I have a concern that the federal government has overstepped its bounds. Originally, 20% of the power was to reside with the federal government and 80% with the states. That balance has skewed in the opposite direction to the point that as states, we only have 20% of the power. We have become dependent upon federal dollars and federal direction. The next question that I ask myself is, should I take action to try to change this course? For me, the answer is yes. Then the question becomes, well, what possible solution can I pursue? We really only have two, Congress or Article 5 Convention. I ask you, do you trust Congress to change this death spiral that we're in? For me, the answer is simply no. I'm not sure they even can. You know, as I look at our congressional delegation, and each one of them, as they've campaigned, said they're going to go back to D.C. and they're going to change the world. They're going to rein in spending. They're going to balance the budget, and they're doing a lot of other things. But what they find is that a couple of things. One is that power of Washington is addicting, but also that the bureaucracy is more powerful than they are. It's so oppressive that it engulfs them. Anytime that we take one page of law in Congress and turn it into 1,000 pages of rule by the bureaucracy and bureaucrats, it just is impossible to make any changes. Congress has exceeded its delegated powers, created numerous federal agencies who impose thousands of pages of administrative rule. So when Congress says we want clean air, it's an administrative agency bureaucrat that tells us what that means. They interpret that. Presidents have issued executive orders like kings on a throne. Much of our state legislative action is a response to how we comply with federal law. Think about that. The bills we pass, oftentimes we're complying with federal law. The founder said we have taken every precaution to limit the federal government, but if over time this begins to slip, we have provided you one final remedy. That is a convention of the states under Article 5 of the Constitution. Article 5 is the founder's fail-safe. That is a course of action we need to try in order to restore balance to the government rule. Our colleagues across the country from all 50 states are just like us. They are concerned just like we are. They are good, honest people just like we are. They are watching to see what we're going to do. If we have the courage to join that battle, to be part of this solution. If we don't like what comes out of the convention, we can defeat it. That is the ultimate protection. Let me address some concerns. Some feel that big government is okay, that government will always take care of us and we don't need to do anything. To those, I would say that unchecked power of the federal government will never stop until it actually consumes itself, leading to failure and collapse. And it really doesn't matter who's in power. If your party's in power at this moment, you may feel comfortable. You may feel confident everything's going to go well. Well, history, look at the last 20, 30 years. That pendulum swings. But the one constant is that things don't change in Congress, and they don't change in Washington, D.C. States need to step up. Some feel we have a problem, but they fear the solution. They fear the unknown, and for this reason they say we should wait, and Congress will fix it. Waiting isn't the answer. Taking action and using the tools given us is the answer. Many of us felt that President Obama and Congress went way beyond their designated powers. Now many others feel that President Trump and our current Congress will go beyond their powers. You know, if you look over the last 20 years, there's been opportunity, 20 or 30 years, there's been instances where both parties had complete control of both bodies in Congress and the presidency, and quite frankly, I'd say both parties failed. That's a constant. Some feel the scope is too broad. Not all that is proposed will come out of the convention. I personally like the broadness of this call because it gives us the flexibility to deal with all of our concerns. The bandage needs to be as broad as the wound. Now, some fear a runaway convention. I put much more trust in a group of state legislators than I do in Congress and the president, no matter who is in power. I can't even envision a situation where a convention can propose a drastic overhaul of the Constitution with some crazy ideas and 38 state legislators, 76 legislative bodies, 75 if you include Nebraska, will ratify such a crazy proposal. Some have said we already did this with a balanced budget amendment that is out there, but it's out there floundering. I agree that the resolution is imperfect and that process is untried. However, I doubt that we could produce any other resolution more likely to gain approval of 34 states. The fact is that the more we bring attention to this issue, the more likely that one of the calls will get to the finish line, and the more often that we ring the bell, that we ask them to take notice, the more likelihood that they will take notice and make changes. Now, if you feel that there's a problem, but fear the Constitution and are afraid to follow the remedy provided by the founders, then vote against it. If you feel there is no problem with the federal government and trust that all is well, then vote no. If you believe, as I do, as most Americans do, that the federal government is too big, too intrusive, and too expensive, and you believe that in trust in the Constitution and Article 5, then the proper vote is aye. Mr. President, I'm not going to go on and elaborate and give you lots of quotes, and I'm not the elaborate legal mind that some are that have looked at this and some that have presented this. I'm just looking at it as a simple, straightforward legislator that says, we got a problem, let's go fix it.
I've just met like the kindest, most welcoming people who have made me feel empowered.